Hi folks, I'm Angus from Green Man Natural Health, and I'm an herbalist, and I'd like to talk to you on this cold, damp spring morning about white pine. White pine's scientific name is Pinus strobus, and it's native to North America, from Canada all the way down to Georgia, and from the East Coast to the middle of the Midwest. So how do you know that it's Pinus strobus? Well, first off, it's a pine tree, which you should be able to recognize because of the bundles of needles that are all put together in what's called a fascicle. And if you look at the fascicles of the white pine, let's see if I can get this set up right, that there are 5 needles, each one of which is about as long as your fingers. So this is a handy way to remember white pine, is that you've got 5 needles which are each about as long as the fingers on your hand. We're going to talk about 4 different ways of using this plant medicinally today. The first part we're going to talk about is in fact the needles. We use the needles to expel wind and dry damp. And so what that means is that this can be used to prevent and treat allergies and common cold symptoms, especially stuffy head and runny nose. It's very, very good for a watery, drippy, runny nose. You can take the needles and chop them up fine and make a nice tea out of them. Strain the needles out, obviously, before you drink it. And that should dry you up pretty well. If you have used too much of this, you will notice it because you will get very dry. The next medicinal I want to talk to you about is, as we move down the plant, you can take your knife and strip off the bark. And what you end up with is little strips of bark like this. You can break them up and put them, and once again, you can make a cup of tea out of them, or you can put them in a pot of water and simmer them for about 20 minutes. And what you will end up with is something that will help stop your cough and dry up the phlegm in the lungs. So if you have a cough that you're producing copious amounts of thin, watery, white or clear mucus, then white pine bark is a great medicinal for you. If you have a cough where you have got thick, sticky yellow phlegm, you really don't want to use this. It's warming and drying, so that's just going to get that phlegm even stickier and hotter, so we don't really particularly want that. The third medicinal that we can talk about is the nodes. Now, a node is the place in the plant where all the branches come out of the stem. So you can take your pruning shears and just cut that node out, and what you'll end up with is something like this. And what we want to do with those is we want to either crush them or chop them and put them into a pot of water and simmer them again. But this time you're going to simmer them for more like 40 minutes or an hour before you strain out the liquid and drink the broth. You can then discard the little chunks of wood and whatnot. That is going to be particularly good for pain, joint pain especially, that is made worse on a cold, damp day. And for me, that's my lower back right now. So I'm very likely to go in and brew some of this stuff up to knock that down a little bit. The fourth medicinal that we have, and I don't have it here so you can see it, is the pitch itself of the pine tree. And that has been traditionally used for cuts and scrapes and infections and boils and splinters and things like that. And it's generally applied directly to the wound or to the boil or to the splinter to help draw out the infection and the poison. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that I can also speak to you about another plant sometime soon. And if you have further questions, or if you would like a personal consultation regarding herbs or self-care, please don't hesitate to contact me.